a black speech therapist. Of course I'm gonna be asked if I'm the speech therapist. Yeah, no, I'm actually the speech therapist. Yeah. I'm a black speech therapist. Of course I'm gonna code switch. Well, indubitably. Nice to meet you. Hey, I'm a black speech therapist. Of course there's gonna be microaggressions, but I'm just gonna smile anyway. I'm a black speech therapist. Of course every kid is gonna say, hey, is that your dad? When there's another black kid in the room. I'm a black speech therapist. Of course I'm gonna be looking for other black people in the room, but I know there's not. Yo, these are nasty. Why am I touching these? Ew. I'm a black speech therapist. Of course I'm gonna come off aggressive because I'm advocating for myself. My bad. I'm a black speech therapist. Of course I'm gonna have people say, hey, I'm with you. I don't see color. Of course our black kids are gonna be overdiagnosed because it's a language disorder, right? Yeah. Because the way we talk, it's a disorder. I'm a black speech therapist, and I love the 8% of us that are here. We in this field. We ain't going nowhere. So get comfortable. Cause I'm me. And you gotta see all of me. That sounded weird. I'm black and I'm proud, baby. I'll see you in the next one.
Being one of few black psychologists is not a flex, it's a problem. So I was in a meeting yesterday with somebody who was interested in doing some work with me, and I was basically, she was interested in my credentials, and I explained to her, being a psychologist, I'm a black psychologist, there aren't many of us in the country. And the conversation went into like, okay, well, why? Like, why is there a shortage of black psychologists in America? What's the problem? And so we had a real life conversation about how systemic racism is one of the reasons why it's hard for black people to be credentialed in some of these areas. So most of us know that systemic racism definitely plays a role in our education and healthcare system. So even beyond that, in order to be a psychologist, there's a lot of resources that you need in order to get the training and to even apply for internships. It takes money to apply for internships to be a psychologist. Even when you're practicing as a student under somebody else's license, like you're responsible for purchasing things like liability insurance, which you should, but also you got to keep in mind like, okay, what about students who don't have access to those types of things? This is one of many problems. Beyond that, let's say you jump through the hurdle of education, you jump through the financial difficulty, then you get to the EPPP, which is pretty much the last step of becoming a licensed clinical psychologist. This is basically one of our licensing exams. Not only is that test about $600 to sit for, but if you don't pass the first time, then you're going to continue to pay that $600 every time to take it. And who are the students usually impacted by this? Well, recent researchers have suggested that questions in the EPPP have a history of being biased and discriminating against African American and Latinx people who want to become psychologists, who are sitting for this exam. So once we jump through all the hurdles and the flaming hoops, we finally sit for the EPPP exam, and then we have to sit and answer questions that have a history of being biased and discriminating against our people. Like, make it make sense, bro. Like, so many people are saying, like, yeah, more black people need therapists, and we need more black therapists and psychologists out there. But we also have to address that it's real life systemic racism going on out here. Oh, and I forgot this part. Get this. So as if the steps to becoming a licensed clinical psychologist as a black person isn't hard enough, we now have a part 2 that they're trying to roll out, a EPPP part 2. So after sitting for this exam that has a history of discriminating against black and Latinx people, there's now a part 2 where you're going to be required to orally discuss and to have a oral type of exam. And so a lot of people are trying to fight against it, but it's just going to make the hoops even much more difficult.
Look, I just want to tell y'all, the microaggressions have to stop. So let me paint the picture. I see somebody go in my patient's room. I was supposed to go on break, but I saw him, so I said, let me just check in real quick. So I go in and I say, hey, what are you about to do for my patient? They say, oh, I'm just checking the lines. I said, okay, cool. So then they turn around and look at me, and she says, she says, who's in charge of this room? I said, me. So she said, no, let me say it again. Who's the RN? And she tries to look at my badge. I said, it's me. Stuff like that is just so it's a microaggression, but it's so demeaning in the moment because the patient's looking at me, I'm looking at them, and I want to scream like, did you not just hear what I said? But I didn't. It's just like, I'm the nurse, and it sometimes just demeans all the hard work that I've been through, all the different barriers and stuff that I'm breaking for myself, let alone, but all the things that people have done before me. It's just.
So I was working at the hospital today. I'm on inpatient service for one of my rotations, but I had a patient today. She was a black mom. She was a single mom. She brought her 2 kids with her, a little boy and a little girl. One was 5, one was 6. So I'm in the room and I'm working her up. I'm doing her physical exam. I'm telling her what I think the problem is and what we're going to do for it. I think she has choledocholithiasis, which is really just a long word for a gallstone in a peculiar spot. But anyways, so I'm doing my thing, and then I turn to the little girl and I ask her, I say, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she goes, I'm going to be someone who gets to take care of my mom like you. And then the little boy chimes in. He's like, no, I want to be someone who gets to take care of mom. Super cute. But then I turn back to the mom, and then she tells me, she says, I personally haven't had a black doctor or black student doctor in over a decade. All right, and this is definitely my kids' first time ever seeing a black physician. And so I turn back to the kids, obviously, I'm just like, hey, you want to be a doctor? You got it. Don't let anybody get in your way. Don't let anything stop you. And then it just occurred to me, like, if I'm the first black doctor they've ever seen, that just kind of sets the stage, Now that they've seen someone who looks like them, who's done it, now they feel like they can do it. You feel me? And that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? Just got to do it for the people.
Hey, Jasmine.
Hey.
Do you have a moment to chat really quick?
Of course.
Awesome. Well, it's just really about, your facial
Okay.
expressions, your tone in the office is really bad. Like that face right there. We've been getting a lot of feedback. Like the meeting today is a really great example of
The
that.
meeting today was about laying off employees.
Listen, I get it, but you just have to be more approachable. You have to be more approachable. You have to smile more. Feedback's a gift.
Sure.
Can you accept that?
Sure, absolutely. I will take the feedback. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Just be more approachable, not so angry. All right, see you later. Angry girl, Brian cussed out everybody in the office yesterday. Spit all over my desk from cussing out everybody. You talk about me being approachable. Get the hell out.
Would you trust these doctors with your life?
Indubitably, especially since when black patients are treated by black doctors, those patients experience better health and lower mortality. But also because if it wasn't for black doctors, everybody be dead. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams performed the first successful open heart surgery in 1893. Dr. Solomon Carter Fuller translated Alzheimer's work from German to English in the early 1900s. Dr. Charles Drew discovered that it was easier to bank blood plasma than store whole blood. Dr. Jane Cook Wright discovered that you can monitor the effects of drugs on cancer cells using patient tissue instead of laboratory mice. So would I trust my life with that room full of super melanated, highly educated, often imitated, never duplicated, extra elevated room full of geniuses? The answer, an unequivocal yes. Now cue the music. Dr. King would have lived if he'd have had a black doctor. Another satisfying racial moment. Thought he ate, but he yet famished.
Wanna go, baby, go ahead and walk out the door. But one thing that you gotta remember is one monkey don't stop no show. This train gonna keep on